What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. I hope you're all doing well out there, coming off of a good Thursday for me. Hoping to get after it. It's a lot of good tournaments, a lot of big stacks to play, but they've dwindled a little bit for me. I've narrowed it down, and a lot of great pitching, and I've also tried to narrow that down, so I'll go through that as well. Please pop in any questions and thoughts while I'm going, because I'm going to read through what I'm doing, and then I'm going to tag, whatever, answer whatever else we have left, say what's up to everybody else who's popping on in. Going to immediately say what's up to my man K9 and my man Sharks, and we will hopefully get after it today. So here's what I got so far. I love the Dodgers, obviously. There's the chalk. Atlanta, Toronto are my next. I really want to play St. Louis, but that weather has got me concerned, especially with it being Washington, whom we know that Washington will postpone games. So that's frustrating, and the Yankees are in there. When the two stacks I'm considering that I haven't really gotten much exposure to are Milwaukee and Chicago White Sox. I also don't mind some bats from Houston, but it's going to be primarily focused around Atlanta, Toronto with some Dodgers. That's basically the general order I'm doing things. Some standout value prices. That's part of the problem is that you've got the Dodger. You've got guys like Jake Lamb at 2,100. You've got 2,700 for Trace Thompson on DK on FanDuel. They're both affordable at 2,600. Guys like Owen Miller are going to be overlooked. I don't mind if you want to throw him in at 2,800 if you're looking for a cheap second baseman. Jonah Bride at right at near the minimum at 2,200. If you're not playing Lance Lynn in some lineups, that's something I'm considering. I'm also, looking at, though, Acuna's price is just egregious on DK at 4,900. So that's just an awesome play, whether you're stacking Atlanta or not. Going through my pitching, I have Garrett Cole, then Bieber, then Manoah as my favorite three. I think you could switch up the order if you want to. Lance Lynn is my other main guy, and then I will be using some Blake Snell and Justin Verlander. On FanDuel, I am using 4 pitchers: Verlander, Cole, Lynn, and Manoah. I'm actually using 5, and I'm also going to sprinkle in some Bieber in there. So those are that's sort of the pitching for me as I see it. In terms of actual positions, I'm going to read through them. Kirk and Smith are my favorite catchers, with d'Arnaud just behind them. Nothing surprising considering who I said I'm playing. First baseman, Vlad is my number 1. Number 2 would be Freeman. Number 3 would be Olsen in the lefty-lefty. Second base, Biggio is the obvious guy to use to save money. He's leading off tonight for Toronto. Maybe he can finally have a big game for us. And Gorman in your stacks of St. Louis. But Biggio, Owen Miller I'm really spending down in second base, and then obviously Gavin Lux is the other one. Third base, Matt Chapman, Jonah Bride. You can use him at second or third. Max Muncy. Those are my main third basemen on this slate. I'm not really touching a whole lot of other guys. Maybe I can get a little bit of Bregman or something like that. Swanson, Turner are my main shortstops. I'm using a little bit of Elvis Andrus to save money. I don't love it. Again, where I'm not using Lance Lynn, I don't mind taking a bat here or there. I'd rather it be a lefty, but can't have everything. That's sort of what I'm doing. On FanDuel, shortstop Turner. I forgot to mention Luis Arias, I think, is a really good value-saving option, batting down in the order for Milwaukee. He's got plenty of pop in that bat. He's probably going to hit 20 home runs this year, and he's a guy I really like to get to. On FanDuel, also third base is pretty. Josh Donaldson is like an awesome chalk. I think at 2,600 is just too cheap. Outfield, main outfielder, highest owned is Acuna, Bellinger, Betts, Lamb, then Ozuna. Then we get the Cardinals guys, and then I'm using a little bit of guys like Victor Robles leading off if we can feel safe that game is going to play, and Tapia, Gurriel, and Teoscar Hernandez would be the next guys for me. So Joanne's playing the Dodgers of St. Louis. I think that's completely fine. I think that there's in a large field, lots of people in the tournament. That's probably going to be pretty chalky. But this weather in the St. Louis game, I just feel very, very concerned about it. So when we have so many stacks to choose from, I am going to be on the side of mostly leaving them out and then probably leaving them all in one stack together on each side or something like that, because I don't want to mess with the weather unless it improves, because Washington, we've seen postpone games that that guys like Roth had as like yellow green because they just do some weird stuff over there. So I really don't trust them. And it's frustrating because that's where a lot of like value and medium mid-tier value I think is coming in for me. Other guys, if you had to get to some other bats, there's guys like Jock Peterson who are really cheap, as well as on FanDuel. So is you have a very cheap. Why am I, the name escaping me right now? Kyle Garlick, as well as the 2,400 and 2,300 Nick Castellanos and 2,400 for, again, it's in Washington, but for why can't I think of names right now? Nelson Cruz. That's what I was trying to get to. Although he's been awful this season, so I'm not buying that he doesn't still have the ability to hit one out. As Rody says, let's go. Let's get the likes up, guys. Only going to be here for another 14 minutes, so get all the questions in now. Get all the thoughts in now. Talk about the stacks that you like that I maybe didn't mention. Maybe the ones that I did that you agree, you disagree. Fire it on in. Let's go. I think the Dodgers and St. Louis are going to be the chalkier of the bunch, especially with the lineup that they released in Toronto. I don't mind. I'm still going right to Toronto anyway. But it is a little concerning. You have two of the best 3 or 4 hitters on the team, depending on how you look at it. I guess the two of the best 3 not playing. So let's get it. Let's get to it. Let me just grab my SaberSim projections and update them. Make sure that we got everything right. All right, here we go. I've got all my core plays up, and my early builds haven't changed all that much, with the exception of guys who aren't in the lineup today, just for what it's worth. And I really think I think if I have to look at what I'm doing right now, I think I have to get more Yankees and probably less Cardinals just because of the weather. I'm not buying the ownership projections on the Cardinals. I think they're going to be higher than everybody thinks. I think everybody will be near double digits that you want to play. But I don't think it's going to be anything. There's a lot of teams to choose from, so I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. And maybe it'll go down because of this weather concern. I do think Kevin Biggio is going to be really popular for the Blue Jays, but I don't think that Vlad is going to be as popular, because I think people will pay up for Freeman. There's other options over there as well. I think Teoscar is another guy people aren't going to play. I think Matt Chapman, coming off the 2 home run game, is still not going to get the ownership that he should. So I really like the idea of getting heavy on Toronto. Don't mind a little bit of Milwaukee, as I mentioned, but more pieces for me. The guy who I'm heaviest on is Urias, because he fits price-wise and position-wise for me, especially on FanDuel. So that's what I'm doing over there. That's pretty much a rundown of everything I'm doing. Any Philly love? So I think it's okay. So like, we have a giant slate today, right? We have one of the worst pitchers parks in baseball, and the guy who gives up one of the worst hitters parks in baseball, and the guy who gives up the least home runs per start of any pitcher, I believe. There might be 1 or 2 guys less. In I believe 18 starts this season, only 4 of them. No, sorry, that's what it is. He's allowed the fewest per start. Not overall, because he gave up 3 in one game and he gave up 2 in another game. But he had, other than that, he's only given up 1 home run in each of 2 other starts. So in his 19 starts, he's given up home runs in only 4 games. That doesn't feel like something that I would want to try and stack on a 15-game slate for no reason. It just seems like something you're doing to get overly cute. Could it work? Sure. It's baseball. It can always work. But what are we really playing against a guy who's not giving up power in a pitcher's park, to an offense missing their best hitters, or their best hitter? It just doesn't rate for me high enough on this slate. I'd rather play all the other stacks I mentioned. I actually would rather play Houston than I would that team, even against Robbie Ray. I think I have no problem with that. So no Philly love for me. I don't see the love for Philly. I'm guessing that they must be cheap on FanDuel if it's coming from K9, because could it work out? Sure. Is it a good way to play? In my opinion, no, it's not. I don't like playing against pitchers who don't give up home runs, and I don't like playing players in the worst hitters parks on the slate, or second worst hitters park on the slate, depending on who you ask. I think it probably is the worst hitters park on the slate, along with San Fran, but San Fran's 57 degrees, so probably a little better than San Fran today. I mean, if you end up with a bat or 2, fine. It's just I certainly would not be trying to prioritize Philadelphia today. I don't don't really understand why we would do that, except for that guys are cheap. Like Castellanos, Vierling are cheap. I guess that's probably where the question comes from. Yeah, I do think you want to try to get to try to make the slate smaller as you can. Like the stacks that I'm a little bit afraid of by not using Milwaukee. I wish I had ideal world. I'd like to have a little more of them. White Sox, I'd like to have a little more of them. Houston, I'd like to have a little more of them. I'm just not going to be able to do it as I'm trying to narrow down my pool here. And I also think there's really high upside for both pitchers in the San Diego, Minnesota game, but there is downside as well. So using some bats from that game, I have no problem with if you wanted to go that route. I heard some people talking about Texas and the Angels. I think that would be terrible, personally. Will it work out every now and then? Sure. Is it a good play? No. Simple as that. Yeah, I'm sure it's the leverage. I'm sure. Well, yeah, it's not exactly direct leverage. It's not like people are playing Quintana, but SaberSim probably is popping them out to get off the board, and they're a good offense. That on most slates I would take. Like if you want to build a 3-man with them, no problem. They're so cheap. I have no problem if you want to do that. It's just outside of Schwarber and Real Muto, they're so price efficient. But I don't think you should be trying to build a 5-man, or maybe on FanDuel it's a little bit not as bad because you only have to play 4 of them. But there I am saying I'm only having to play 4 of them. So how good of a play can that really be? Is I guess my question. So that's where I'm at. So guys, fire on in the thoughts, fire in the questions. I'm going to be out of here in 9 minutes. So let's get to it. Let's get some comments. Let's get some things going. I don't think we have a whole lot. I did exactly what I said I was going to do yesterday. It worked out really well. Almost worked out really, really well, and then almost won that tournament. It looked like for a minute when Wood was cruising, I was going to get there because that's all I actually had that I differentiated from me in first place was Wood, and I would have needed Wood to get to, I believe, like 32, and he was at 25 with a no hitter going, or 24 with a no hitter going, I believe it was, before he gave up a couple runs and 3 hits and all that stuff, and that was pretty much that for the win. But if there's no questions or no thoughts, I'm probably going to bounce. Happy Friday, drinking my kombucha, and hopefully making tons of money tonight. Brody's been busy lately, so just going to acknowledge that real quick. Seeing real quick what else is happening. Oh, we've got I'm just trying to see why we have so little. I know it's different than basketball, but there's so many less questions and thoughts. And everybody who's watched me for long enough knows I answer really abruptly. That's the way I like to do things. I am really, really, really like to just be cut and dry and be honest about what I think and what I'm doing. And I think that's why a lot of you guys do like me, and it's also why probably some other people don't like me. But it doesn't mean questions, and even if it's a bad or it's a question that I criticize, doesn't mean it's a bad question. It just means it's leading to a good point. I appreciate you, K9, and I don't mind, especially if you play like Castellanos and maybe you play Castellanos, Schwarber, and one other, maybe get a mini stack. I just don't feel like I want to fully stack that when they're there. We got Debo in our Discord saying he doesn't want to play the Dodger chalk. Don't play it then. There's plenty of other teams to play tonight. We also had the same thing happen last night where people were saying that they didn't want to play the Dodgers. And the Dodgers actually, for the size of the slate and the other games that were being played last night, they actually went a lot lower on than they should have been. It's kind of crazy actually to see. The other thing I could have done that would have given me a chance to win the 7-7-7 is if I played Freeman. I had a 2v2 that I was considering, but I just didn't want to do a mini Toronto stack without using Vlad. And it's what ended up costing me because I was all over Chapman in that matchup, and I love Chapman again today. He's a guy who gets hot. No, I appreciate that, K9, but I do think that individually, Schwarber, Castellanos are both really good plays, and then you could throw in a Hoskins. So I could see why it makes sense on FanDuel. It's very different than making a 5-man stack on DK where you're taking 5 out of 8, only taking 4 on FanDuel where the correlation matters, and you can get there without them. You could even win without them scoring many runs just on the power upside alone. So I think it's fine. All right, guys, that's why I'm gonna bounce it if there's nothing else. Keep firing on any thoughts, though. I'm gonna give you guys another minute, and I think that people are too obsessed with fading on 15-game slates. That's one thing I'll say. I think that they get too worried about fading chalk, and you should fade chalk if on a 15-game slate if guys are going to be 30+% owned. Now, it depends on where you think the Dodgers are going to be at, and I will update. I'm not going to give away all of SaberSim's whole tool here, but I will update where SaberSim has the Dodgers, and then where our projections have them as well. And we have them significantly higher. But one thing you can do to get a little bit, play Trace Thompson and Cody Bellinger are going to be the lowest owned of the bunch. That's my personal take. You also can combine them with any other stack. You can play the bottom of the order. You can skip Freeman and Betts and Turner if you want to. That's an interesting way to build a stack without the 3 best hitters on the team. And actually, it's viable enough when you have as much talent as this lineup does all the way 1 through 9. Now, Trace is by far the worst hitter on the team, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't have some exposure to him at what should be lower ownership a little bit than the other guys. And I am not buying that they'll be quite as high owned as the current things are. But again, I have the Blue Jays owned. I have just as much Blue Jays as I do Dodgers in my lineups today. It's really close between the two, and I'm trying to combine them, jam them together because I really like that type of build. And I think there's a chance a chance for both offenses to score 10 runs tonight. So that's what I'm on right now. All right. It seems like people are starting to fade away. Appreciate you all as always. Let's see some screenshots. Let's see some wins in the Discord tonight. Hopefully I can step away for a few hours and then come back again and be right in the thick of it with a chance to win. And maybe we could have a little fun in Discord later on this evening. So good luck, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. I'm going to say one last thing before I get out of here. I agree with what Goldie's saying in chat right now. The Dodgers at 22 to 25%. That probably is about right, but I don't think it's going to be right for all of them. I really don't. I just think that you're going to end up, you can't play all of them. There's going to be guys who get left out. On FanDuel, they actually should even be lower, like the bottom of the order, especially, just because you can only play 4 of them. So just keep that in mind. There's different ways to stack. And also, you have plenty of other options, and you don't need to go with a full 5-man stack. You can split it 4-4 with the Blue Jays. You could split it 4-4 with Atlanta, split it 4-4 with the Yankees. And then if weather permitting, St. Louis or Milwaukee. I would say those are all pretty good.